Every moment we breathe, our consciousness dances on the edge of the unknown, sparking questions humanity has pondered for centuries. What truly happens after death? Does our awareness vanish forever, or is there more beyond this life? Today, we delve into the profound crossroads where philosophy and science meet, exploring theories, beliefs, and the mysteries that challenge our understanding of existence itself. If you're curious about what might lie beyond the final breath, stay with us, because uncovering the truth could redefine everything you think you know about life, death, and what comes next. The nature of consciousness, philosophical perspectives, and scientific insights. Consciousness remains one of the most confounding subjects in both scientific inquiry and philosophical debate, especially when pondering what exactly happens after death. While our everyday experience suggests that consciousness is intimately tied to brain activity, the question of whether it persists beyond biological death challenges the very foundations of scientific understanding. Recent advancements in neuroscience have mapped numerous brain regions involved in conscious awareness, but these studies stop short when addressing what occurs if brain function ceases entirely. The sensations of self-awareness, perception, and subjective experience seem to vanish with brain death, leading many to believe that consciousness ends permanently. Nevertheless, some scientific hypotheses propose that consciousness could have a non-physical aspect, transcending the physical brain, which leaves open the door, however narrow, to survival after death. Philosophically, perspectives diverge sharply on whether consciousness is purely a product of physical processes or something more fundamental. Materialist viewpoints argue that consciousness emerges from complex neural interactions and that when these cease, consciousness ceases as well. Consequently, death marks the absolute end of subjective experience. On the other hand, dualist theories posit that consciousness might be a separate entity running parallel to physical processes, which could, in theory, survive physical death. This idea resonates with many spiritual traditions that see consciousness as an eternal essence, capable of existing independently of the body. Although these assertions lack definitive scientific proof, they continue to influence philosophical discourse, encouraging debates about whether consciousness could exist in some form outside of biological life. Scientific insights into the nature of consciousness increasingly incorporate interdisciplinary approaches, combining neuroscience, quantum physics, and psychology to explore its fundamental qualities. For example, some researchers investigate the possibility of quantum processes influencing brain activity, suggesting that consciousness might not be entirely reducible to classical neural models. Experiments involving near-death experiences, NDEs, add intriguing, though controversial, data to this conversation. Many individuals report vivid perceptions, including seeing their own bodies from an outside perspective or experiencing a sense of peace and detachment during moments when brain activity is substantially diminished. While these experiences cannot conclusively prove the survival of consciousness after death, they continue to inspire scientific inquiry and philosophical curiosity about what lies beyond mortality. Ultimately, the question remains open and deeply nuanced. Scientific evidence consistently shows that brain activity aligns closely with conscious states, yet it cannot fully explain the subjective experience itself, what it feels like to be conscious. Philosophers continue to wrestle with whether consciousness is a fundamental aspect of reality or an emergent property of neural complexity. The ambiguity fuels ongoing debates, with some proposing that consciousness might be a universal phenomenon, potentially existing in some undefined form after death. While definitive proof remains elusive, contemplating the nature of consciousness after death pushes us to reevaluate our assumptions about life, the mind, and the universe, illuminating the profound mystery that keeps science and philosophy intertwined. Historical views on life after death and the evolution of beliefs. Throughout human history, the concept of what happens after death has taken many forms, shaped by cultural, religious, and philosophical influences. Ancient civilizations, such as Egypt, believed in an elaborate journey into the afterlife, where the soul would be judged by Osiris. Egyptians mummified their dead to preserve the body, which they thought was essential for the soul's continuation. Their beliefs in the judgment of the soul with concepts like the weighing of the heart, set foundational ideas about accountability and immortality that echoed through many later traditions. In India, the ideas of reincarnation and karma emerged in Indian philosophy long before recorded history. These concepts suggest that a soul is reborn into new forms based on its actions in previous lives. Hinduism and Buddhism elaborated on this idea extensively, emphasizing cycles of birth, death, and rebirth until achieving liberation or enlightenment. Such beliefs provided a framework that explained the persistence of individual identity across multiple lives, contrasting sharply with the Western notions of a singular, eternal soul. Ancient Greek thinkers like Plato pondered the soul's fate beyond death, proposing that the soul was immortal and returned to a realm of forms. His allegory of the soul's journey suggested that philosophical knowledge and virtue could influence the soul's destiny after death, elevating moral and intellectual development as pathways to a favorable afterlife. Meanwhile, in other Greek traditions, tales of shadowy Hades and the judgment of souls reflected varying ideas of existence after death, neither fully material nor purely spiritual. As Christianity spread across Europe, its doctrines created a new spectrum of beliefs about life after death, emphasizing resurrection, eternal heaven, or punishment in hell, depending on moral conduct. The resurrection of the body and a final judgment became central tenets, profoundly shaping medieval and modern Western conceptions of what might await beyond mortal life. Over centuries, these beliefs evolved with religious reformations, scientific discoveries, and philosophical debates, demonstrating how fluid and diverse human ideas about consciousness and existence after death have remained. Throughout different eras, humanity has continually navigated its curiosity about whether consciousness endures, transforms, or simply ceases when the body dies. Modern scientific approaches to near-death experiences and consciousness research. Recent advancements in neuroscience and clinical research have begun to unravel some of the mysteries surrounding consciousness and near-death experiences, NDEs. Scientists approach these phenomena with rigorous empirical methods, often combining neuroimaging techniques, psychological assessments, and detailed interviews of individuals who have undergone extreme medical events. Functional MRI scans and EEG recordings have shown that during moments of clinical death or near-death states, certain brain regions, particularly those associated with perception, memory, and self-awareness, exhibit characteristic activity patterns. This suggests that NDEs may originate from complex brain processes rather than supernatural explanations, though they remain profoundly transformative for many individuals. One prominent scientific perspective considers the possibility that NDEs arise from brain mechanisms triggered by hypoxia, altered neurochemistry, or electrical disturbances during critical conditions. For example, the release of endogenous opioids or neuroprotective chemicals during traumatic events might produce vivid hallucinations or feelings of peace and detachment. Researchers have documented cases where individuals report seeing bright lights, tunnels, or encounters with deceased loved ones, phenomena that often correlate with specific physiological states in the brain. These observations support the idea that NDEs are an inner experience rooted in neurobiological responses to extreme stress rather than glimpses of an afterlife. Another focus in contemporary research involves examining the phenomenon of consciousness itself, how and where it exists within neural networks, particularly in states where brain activity is minimal or seemingly absent. Cases of patients who show no detectable brain activity but later report detailed, coherent experiences challenge traditional assumptions about consciousness being dependent solely on brain function. Some scientists propose that consciousness could be a fundamental feature of the universe, akin to space and time, thus allowing for some form of awareness even after physiological death. Although this remains speculative and controversial, studies exploring the persistence of consciousness in the absence of measurable brain activity continue to fuel debate and curiosity. In addition, innovative experiments are pushing the boundaries of understanding by investigating whether consciousness can be detected during cardiac arrest or deep coma via advanced EEG or near-infrared spectroscopy techniques. In some instances, patients who survive cardiac arrest later recall highly detailed experiences that they initially believed to be hallucinations. These reports, coupled with scientific scrutiny, raise questions about the nature of subjective awareness during moments traditionally regarded as the cessation of consciousness. While mainstream science remains cautious, the accumulating evidence invites ongoing inquiry into whether consciousness is uniquely biological or has a more elusive, perhaps quantum-based, underpinning. Philosophical debates, materialism, dualism, and the possibility of an afterlife. The question of what happens to consciousness after death has long ignited debates that cut across philosophy and science. Materialism, with its insistence that everything about consciousness can be explained by physical processes in the brain, suggests that once these processes cease, so does any form of awareness or personal identity. According to this view, consciousness is essentially a byproduct of neural activity, and ending brain function equates to the end of conscious experience. For materialists, death is final, and there is no continuation beyond biological cessation. This perspective aligns with empirical science, where brain scans and neurological studies consistently link mental states to brain activity, providing a tangible foundation for the belief that consciousness depends solely on physical substrates. Contrasting with this is dualism, which posits that there are two fundamentally different kinds of substance, the physical and the non-physical. Dualists argue that consciousness or the soul exists independently of the brain and could potentially survive bodily death. This approach leaves open the possibility of an afterlife, whether in spiritual realms, reincarnation, or some form of continued existence in an intangible form. Famous philosophers like René Descartes championed dualism, emphasizing the mind as a distinct entity that interacts with the body but is not reducible to material components. While dualism offers comfort to those who believe in life after death, it faces challenges in explaining the exact mechanism by which a non-physical consciousness could interact with the physical world, especially given the lack of scientific evidence supporting non-material substances. In recent decades, scientific investigation into near-death experiences and phenomena, such as out-of-body occurrences, has fueled ongoing debate. Some argue these experiences lend credence to the idea that consciousness can transcend brain activity, suggesting fleeting evidence of some form of consciousness surviving death. Others dismiss these as hallucinations or brain-based phenomena under extreme conditions. The possibility of an afterlife remains unresolved, not solely because of a lack of evidence, but also because of the fundamental philosophical differences in how consciousness is understood. Whether the mind is reducible to matter or something more elusive continues to shape the discourse, making it one of the most intriguing and persistent questions at the intersection of philosophy and science. When contemplating what happens to consciousness after death, many scientific investigations and philosophical debates converge on the idea that consciousness may not simply cease when the brain stops functioning. Neurological studies have shown that near-death experiences, NDEs, where individuals report vivid sensations such as floating, seeing lights, or encountering loved ones, suggest that consciousness might have aspects that extend beyond physical brain activity. These reports, although subjective, challenge the view that consciousness is entirely dependent on organic processes and prompt questions about its potential persistence. From a scientific standpoint, consciousness is typically understood as an emergent property of complex neural networks within the brain. When these networks break down at death, the consensus is that conscious experience dissolves. However, anomalies like NDEs and out-of-body experiences, OBs, remain difficult to explain through current neuroscience alone. Some researchers propose that these phenomena could point to a consciousness that operates independently of the physical brain, at least temporarily. Theories such as the quantum consciousness hypothesis suggest that consciousness may be connected to a fundamental aspect of the universe, potentially surviving physical death in some form. Philosophically, many thinkers have debated dualism versus physicalism, whether the mind and body are separate entities or if consciousness is solely a product of physical processes. Dualists argue that consciousness could survive bodily death in some form, perhaps moving on to an alternate realm or existing in a non-material state. Materialists, on the other hand, believe that once the brain ceases to function, all conscious experience ends. These perspectives influence how different cultures and religions interpret what lies beyond death, from reincarnation and spiritual realms to eternal nothingness. The ongoing exploration of near-death phenomena continues to blur the lines and raises the possibility that the human experience may extend beyond the physical vessel. In recent years, a growing body of research from parapsychology and consciousness studies continues to probe this enigma. For example, some documented cases involve individuals recalling detailed events during cardiac arrest or moments when brain activity was minimal, details that, if verified, could indicate consciousness functioning independently of brain activity. Despite the debates, conclusive evidence remains elusive. Still, the question persists: does consciousness undergo a transformation, transition into another dimension, or genuinely cease? The mystery of what happens after death remains one of humanity's most profound questions, driving scientific inquiry and spiritual reflection alike. As we wrap up this exploration into what might happen to consciousness after death, it's clear that the questions remain as profound and varied as ever. From scientific studies to philosophical debates, the nature of life after death continues to challenge our understanding of existence itself. Some see glimpses of continuity in near-death experiences or quantum theories, while others find comfort in the idea of a peaceful transition into whatever comes next. Whatever perspective resonates most with you, the conversation about consciousness beyond the physical remains open and inviting. If you found this discussion intriguing, don't hesitate to dive deeper. There's always more to discover about the mysteries of life and what truly happens when our moment here ends. Stay curious, stay engaged, and keep questioning the nature of reality itself. First, look forward to sharing more thought-provoking topics with you soon. So subscribe, follow, or just keep the conversation going. Thanks for being part of this exploration, and until next time, take care of that curious mind of yours.